secured a 2/3 majority in Parliament following the swearing-in of Ablekuma North MP-elect Ewurabena Aubynn. The development marks a significant consolidation of power for the governing party, fundamentally altering the balance of legislative authority in Ghana's 276-seat parliament. The road to this supermajority began with the contentious December 2024 general elections, where the Ablekuma North constituency results remain disputed due to allegations of electoral irregularities and procedural breaches during collation. After months of legal challenges and a High Court ruling ordering the completion of results collation, the Electoral Commission conducted a rerun in 19 polling stations on July 11, 2025. Aubynn, representing the NDC, emerged victorious with 34,090 votes against the MPP's Efriye 33,881 votes, which is a narrow margin of just 209 votes. With Aubynn swearing in, the NDC now holds 184, exactly 2/3 of Parliament, alongside 4 independent MPs who have declared support for the party, while the opposition New Patriotic Party trails with 87 seats. On one other seat, which the opposition previously held, is now vacant following the demise of the MP for Akwitia, Ernest Yaokumi. The date for a by-election is yet to be determined. Here are excerpts of the swearing-in during which the minority staged a walkout.
I, Aubynn Ewurabena, having been elected a member of Parliament, do in the name of the Almighty God swear. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
That I will uphold.
Preserve.
Protect.
And defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
And
that I will faithfully. And conscientiously. Discharge the duties of a member of Parliament. So help me God.
Well, that was Ewurabena Aubynn being sworn in Parliament earlier today. Speaker of Parliament, after administering the oath of office, admonished the NDC not to abuse their supermajority status.
Honourable members, we have the lessons of the past, and I'm sure you all recall that the first Parliament of the Fourth Republic had more than 2/3 majority in their house, coming from the same National Democratic Congress. In the second Parliament, we had almost the same 2/3. The MPP then had 61 members. The other parties, that's PNC, CVP together, had 6 with an independent member. And that took the parties not in government to a total of 67. And the NDC had 133. That was about 2/3. In 1994, the then President Jerry John Rawlings, called us to a meeting and told us, like what the majority leader just referred to, that we should not use the overwhelming majority to try to bully or stifle the minority from having their say on the floor of Parliament. You, when you are given this mandate, must act as the father and mother of the nation. So you must have the patience, you must have the tolerance to listen to the other side. I hope and pray that this exhortation from both presidents, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, will be taken by you. We must allow our colleagues in the minority to have their say.
Well, that's the Speaker, Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman there. Let's stay a bit further on this matter. Dr. Rashid Rahman is the Director of the Africa Centre for Parliamentary Affairs. Dr. Rahman, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
And in the words of the Majority Leader, Mama Yariga, the NDC, indeed, for the first time in a very long time, has two-thirds again in Parliament. And you heard the Speaker of Parliament just do a chronicle of those two parliaments that the NDC previously had the majority, that's the two-thirds in that parliament. Now, the fundamental question that the Speaker poses is whether or not this is going to inure to the benefit of democracy, looking at the balance of power. Now, that's what the late Jerry John Rawlings said in that admonition that the Speaker just recalled, that the majority should not use that two-thirds majority now to bully their other colleagues relevant now, looking at the scheme of things.
Yes, indeed, Alfred. I mean, this is very, very relevant. I mean, across the world, in democracies where there are supermajorities, if those majorities go unchecked, I mean, they become a danger to democracy itself. If those majorities go unchecked, we see a number of things that becomes risks to a country's democratic process. Constitutional overreach, we see lack of scrutiny and rubber stamping of parliamentary processes. We see a shrinking of the space for conversation. We see a minority that is not given the space to do its work. So while this is victory for the NDC, and they are, I think, celebrating that victory, it could be a sword that can cut both ways. And I think Ghanaians are hoping that whenever the sword is going to cut, it cuts in the way of improving our democracy, in the way of making sure that, the minority is not squeezed, in the way of making sure that, the numbers are used for the benefit of, this country. There are a number of, for instance, constitutional provisions that are candidate for review, that with these numbers, I think the NDC could easily do that if they are not entrenched clauses. Ghanaians will be looking up to the NDC to use those numbers for things like that, rather than pursuing a partisan parochial interest. When the honorable member was being sworn in, I think the first few words were that she was going to uphold, work in the interest of Ghana and uphold the Constitution. That is what all our members of parliament are supposed to do. But often, you see them paying allegiance to some powerful president, some powerful party, and so on, and they forget the allegiance that they swore to this country and to the Constitution. So I'm just hoping that these numbers will be used as a force for good, so that our democracy would improve, rather than using it for pursuing parochial partisan interests.
But really, if you look at the reality, Dr. Draman, since the inception of this 9th Parliament, the NDC MPs, or the majority side of this 9th Parliament, which has the historic two-thirds now, has never had the full complement of their MPs on the floor of Parliament. In fact, yesterday, they struggle to pass this Mahama Cares bill, which is now, from what we are getting now, has been passed into law as we speak. That is today, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund bill. Yesterday, the majority side did not have enough numbers. In fact, the minority at some point had more numbers than them, even with this 184. So some would say that the fears may just be far-fetched based on the reality we're seeing now.
No, the fears are not far-fetched, Alfred. I think when it matters most, they will rally their members to come and vote, and they just need 138 to make decisions. So I think if there are critical bills before Parliament, they can marshal those numbers. So yes, quorum has always been a problem. We have seen that right from, I think, the early days of this Parliament. And some of us have had the occasion of saying that the minority looks more organized and more cohesive than the majority, despite their numbers. And that is, I think that is what the visuals are telling us. But when it matters most, I mean, they will rally their troops and they can get a lot of things done. And when they do that, I think all we are saying is, they should do that in the interest of this country. I wrote a blog. I mean, if you go on our website, I mean, you would see what this shift means for our democracy, and particularly for journalists and for journalism. I was addressing the parliamentary press corps just a few days ago, and I was saying that, they are the last bastion. I mean, that is you people, because the minority can always just have a say, but the heads will be counted. And, when the heads are counted, the NDC is always going to have the day. But I think we need journalists to do their watchdog work in concert with civil society, as we saw just 2 days ago with the withdrawal of that bill, the scholarship bill that was before Parliament. So, yes, they will not have the numbers, I mean, routinely, but when it matters most, Alfred, just trust me, they can pull everybody into the house, and if they want to do mischief, they can use those numbers for mischief, and I hope they don't.
And we'll see how the coming days will look like on this. I thank you so much, Dr. Ashidawan. Thank you for joining us. Let's stay a bit further on this, and that is from the parliamentary analysis and then the balance of power perspective in terms of how things are going to play out on the floor of Parliament. Dr. Ashidawan, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. But how about the politics of things as well? Because what happens in Parliament is a direct reflection of the executive's decision and the direction that the executive arm of government intends to take in terms of governance and steering the affairs of this country. And this is why I bring in Dr. Jonathan Asantewotri. He's a political analyst and a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Political Science Department. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, on the back of what Dr. Ashidawan just indicated, and that's why I want to pick up, because even though the NDC has 2/3, as we are seeing now with the swearing in of Ewurabena Aubynn as the 184th member of the majority side in this parliament, since the inception of this 9th parliament, we haven't seen them really flex their numbers in terms of the representation on the floor of parliament. So yes, they have the muscle, but they haven't really worked with it. How does it strike you?
Well, it's quite interesting. I don't want to believe. Good evening to your listeners and to your good self. And a little point of correction: not the political science department, it's rather the classes and philosophy department. Now, the point ought to be made that there is that temptation when you have such an overwhelming number in Parliament to think that, if I'm not there, this person will be there. If this one is not the then we'll have the majority to always, ensure that we get things through. Be that as it may, I foresee the NDC majority, or to tell the majority in Parliament, rather using their numbers to the advantage of the ordinary Ghanaian. And I am of the view that if they need numbers to push down certain bills, it will be bills that are of a positive consequential effect on Ghanaians, popular ones. Like, for example, it is just quite unfortunate that the Mahama Care, when they were discussing or wanted to push it through, they did not have numbers. So I'm getting a bit confused as to what exactly is happening. I don't also want to believe that some individual members of parliament are disgruntled or apathetic towards the executive arm of government, for which reason, they may want to embarrass the executive arm of government, i.e. the president and his team. Besides, they are all part of the same team. And so I think that it is early days yet. If you look at the position of the president, I do not see in him someone who wants to, push down the throat of everyone on popular bills. That being said, the NDC in not too long distant future will be in transition. Now, they will have to manage the transition very well. Other than that, they could be faced with some kind of internal bickering, and that may not augur well for them when Mr. Mahama is about to hand over to the new leader. So I am of the view that strategically, since or most likely Dr. Baumann may emerge, then it means that you may not want to ruffle a lot of feathers along your path to create some kind of discomfort for kingmakers, and that kingmakers being Ghanaians. So I think that they'll be very cautious, and they will want to ensure that the transition is smoothly done. And that is the more reason why they may want to take decisions that are popular with Ghanaians, that are of some benefit to Ghanaians, and not a kind of bills that will not inure to the benefit of the majority of Ghanaians, but some kind of executive benefit somewhere. And I don't see that is exactly what is likely to happen. And that's the more reason why it baffles me that the Mahama Care, the patronage of the majority parliament.
And I do thank you. Maybe just a brief one before we go. Is there any indication of as it were, what Dr. Rashid Oman has said, when it matters most, galvanizing the numbers and pushing certain things through? Have you seen any indication of that kind of posturing from this majority of this 9th Parliament?
That when it matters?
Yes, that if there are matters that, for instance, he talks about the possible state of abuse of that two-thirds majority, so that if it is something that really they need to push through regardless of what the minority says, then they would galvanize the numbers and push it through, and then we'll go back to that same mantra of the minority having their say, but the minority always having their way. Do you see that posture from the majority in this 9th Parliament?
Well, I doubt a little. If you follow the analysis, the trail of my analysis, or the trajectory of my analysis, you believe that I am thinking a bit differently. Whichever way you look at it, the majority will always have their way. But I think this is a kind of majority that are very cautious, because they know where they came from and they would just easily let it go. So they really want to do right by Ghanaians. Now, if you want to push through something, I think that they will only push through something that is more popular with Ghanaians. Because, for example, that's medical, whatever, I've forgotten the name of the bill, but they call it Mahama Care. It's supposed to be something that is going to be beneficiary to the old, the aged, and virtually look at the kind of ailments that they are talking about. So these are diseases that, you may have to live with it till probably you die. And so such a popular thing, I expect that there shouldn't be any controversy about it. But even when it gets to a bill that is controversial, definitely they will marshal the people and they'll go ahead and approve it. But that being said, whether they will go back to that, lackluster kind of presence in Parliament, well, it may be too speculative, to hazard a guess. I hope that as this subject matter has come up in the media, they may have to turn a new leaf and ensure that the majority that Ghanaians are giving them, they use it to the benefit of the majority of us.
And I do appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, joining us there. So live here on Hot Edition. Let's go on to some more stories. As there's something happening at the Attorney General's office, there's a statement which has been